Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. It is a new year, which means spring is just around the corner. So a lot of us now are looking into purchasing new bikes and overall just getting ready for the new season. So to kick us off for this year, I wanted to share my list of what I think are some of the best bikes you can get for all different kinds of budgets. So today we're going to look at the budgets of $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, $3,500, $6,500, and then lastly, a whopping $9,000. So if that sounds interesting to you, drop a like and hit subscribe, and let's hop right into this list. Now, first thing to share, just going into it, there's so many bikes out there, I can't possibly cover all of them. And if you are riding a bike that matches a budget on this list that I don't mention, please don't take offense. I just simply can't list everything. However, if I do miss an option that you think is really attractive from one of these price points, then let me know in the comments. Let everyone know in the comments. We're all here to learn and grow, and I'd be really curious to hear what you guys have to say. One more thing to mention, the list I'm about to propose is assuming that you're after a performance-oriented road bike. So you're gonna want something that's gonna be a great performer, something that's gonna go fast, that you can join these group rides with, that you can maybe compete with. I'm also gonna be focusing on bang for buck dollar value. So there's lots of really amazing options out there, but not all of them I think are the best value for money. So those ones I'm going to leave out, and I'm just going to focus on what I think is the best value. And I'm also going to focus on options that I think have more or less dodged the post-COVID price hikes. So bikes in general have just skyrocketed in price. And so it's becoming more and more difficult to recommend a lot of bikes because the prices are just so high. But there are some options that I think have semi-avoided those price hikes or maybe just gotten a tad more expensive. So those are the ones that I'm going to focus on for this video. Okay, so starting with the $1,000 entry level budget. So for the $1,000 budget, I've selected the Specialized Allay. And the reason is because the Specialized Allay is a tried and true bike, and the components you're getting on this bike are also tried and true. This is going to ship with the Shimano Claris group set, which Shimano in general makes some very good quality parts, and this is going to be a set of components that have a strong reputation backing their name. A lot of bikes in this category ship with components that are either off-brand or no name and are just going to be less reliable, but the Specialized Allay is at least shipping with components that are going to be easy to replace, easy to do maintenance on, that are going to be easy to find information on. A lot of people ride with the Shimano Claris group set, and it's not obviously going to be the highest end group set out there, but it does have a reputation, it's tried and true, and you can get a lot of really great miles out of it. The shifting and braking performance, again, is not going to be super high end, but this is an entry-level bike, and out of the box, this Specialized Allay should give you many years of performance. And I do like the paint jobs that are offered in this bike. I think that they look pretty great for the price, and typically for the Claris group set nowadays you can expect to pay about $1,000. Previously, before COVID, anything with this Shimano Claris group set would usually sell for maybe just a hair under $900. So I think $1,000 that this is going for is a small price hike, but it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. And again, this Specialized Allay I think is going to be an awesome option. It's going to be reliable, it's going to be relatively fast, it's going to be comfortable, and I think it's one of the best choices you can opt for in this price range. Okay, so then moving on to the $1,500 price range. So the bike that I've selected for this price range is going to be the Trek Domani AL3 disc. So this is going to give you a step up in the componentry. So instead of Shimano Claris, you're getting Shimano Sora, which is going to be a little bit more reliable and more precise shifting, but also you're getting disc brakes with this option, which is going to be a little bit more powerful and more modular and more responsive than the rim brakes found on the Shimano Claris. Now, this bike in general, the Domani, has an awesome reputation. In fact, this is probably one of the most popular and well-known entry-level bikes ever. The Trek Domani is known to be extremely comfortable. and just a very reliable, awesome performer. And I would say even if your budget is in the $1,000 range, if you could stretch it just a little bit to the $1,500 mark, I think this is going to be a bike that will just really tick so many boxes. And again, the paint jobs on these bikes I think look really awesome. So this is just a wonderful bike that I think is really perfect for this price range. Now this bike has seen a bit of a price hike too post-COVID, but again, it's only like 150 or 200 bucks. It's not a ton. So I think still it's a pretty good deal for what you're getting. And I would definitely recommend this one for that price range. Okay, so now looking then at the $2,000 price range. What can $500 extra get you? Well, for that price range, I have chosen again the Domani, but this time it is the Trek Domani AL4 disc. Now this is a really, really awesome bike. So with this option, you are getting again a step higher in the group set componentry. So instead of the Shimano Sora, you're getting Shimano Tiagra. And that's where I really think the bang for buck value starts to mature, because the performance of the Tiagra shifting and reliability and robustness, all that kind of stuff is really strong with the Shimano Tiagra. And one thing in particular that's going to set this group set apart from the Shimano Sora from the previous bike is that this is going to be utilizing disc brakes, but these are going to be hydraulic disc brakes. So the modulation and power and response from these brakes is going to be even better than it was on the Shimano Sora. And it's just going to be really, really awesome. In fact, I own this bike, and this is one of my favorite bikes that I've ever ridden because it's extremely comfortable and it can be an awesome performer. I made 2 videos previously on this bike. One of them is my initial review, which you can find here, where I talk about the features and performance in detail. But the other video I made on this bike is actually an upgrade video where I swapped out the tires and inner tubes for more performance-oriented tires and inner tubes. And the resulting speed that I got from this bike was completely unreal. It completely transformed the feel of this bike. Check out that video here, but it really started to make this bike feel like a racing bike, which is not something I expected because this is definitely not a racing bike, but that simple upgrade completely transformed it. So this is a bike that I really highly recommend. Again, this one did see a $200 post-COVID price increase, which was not cool, but it's not the end of the world. I still think this is an awesome bike. And this is a bike that could probably last you your entire biking career. You'd probably never have to really upgrade anything beyond this unless you were going to be doing like ultra competitive events. Otherwise, the comfort you get and the performance and the reliability you get from the AL4 disc is really, really good. And I think it's an awesome performer. In fact, I have this bike sitting behind me right now on my trainer, which you probably can't see, but there's just so many different ways you can dress up this bike. You could make it an indoor trainer bike, you could make it a gravel bike, you could make it a competitive group ride bike. You can do so many things with it, and I really, really enjoy riding this bike, so I highly recommend it. Okay, so next is going to be the $2,500 price range. So what can you get for $2,500? Well, for $2,500, I have selected the Canyon Ultimate CF SL8. This is a really awesome bike. And again, I have done a review on this bike as well, which you can find here. Basically, this is an extremely lightweight bike, comes in at 7.02 kilograms, which is 16 point something pounds. It is completely carbon fiber. The entire frame is carbon fiber. The fork is carbon fiber. The handlebars and stem are carbon fiber. And the group set is going to be the Shimano Ultegra group set, which is among the highest quality group sets you can get. And especially for this price point, I don't think you can find anything that comes close to this. This is just such an awesome performer. I do have a test loop that I always use to test out new bikes, and the fastest I've actually ever gone on that test loop has been using this bike, which is pretty insane because I've taken it up against some high-end aero racing bikes that cost twice, if not 3 times as much as this. But you just can't really argue with it. Now, I don't think the paint job is super exciting on this bike. Canyon in general, I don't think has the coolest looking paint jobs, but if you just want performance, it's really hard to argue with this. Of course, it does have rim brakes and not disc brakes, so there will be a bit of a performance penalty there. But because it is going to be Ultegra level componentry, the performance is still very good. And I have never had any issues with it. And so I don't think it's necessarily going to be a problem unless you're doing some just ultra super steep descents and you have to have really powerful brakes. I think these are going to be just fine for the vast majority of people. The cool thing about this bike too is the handlebar you're getting is sort of a stem handlebar integrated setup where it's all connected, and it's the same handlebar stem combination that they offer on some of their ultra high-end $9,000-$10,000 bikes too. So the value of this bike is absolutely insane. And what's also cool about this bike is a couple weeks ago, Canyon just dropped the price on this bike. So this used to cost $2,900 and now it costs $2,500. So they dropped it a little bit. So there's never been a better time to buy this bike, and I think it's a really good option. And this would be great for competitive racing events, uphill, downhill, basically any kind of riding. I think this bike is going to be really, really good for. So highly recommended. Okay, so now let's look then at the $3,500 range. So what can $3,500 get you? Well, for $3,500, I have selected the Canyon Aeroad CF SL7. Now this is going to be an aero racing bike that's going to offer some more aero wheels. So this is shipping with a set of Reynolds aero deep dish wheels. It's also going to have an aero handlebar and stem. And the componentry is going to be the 105, Shimano 105 componentry throughout. And this is going to have disc brakes. So the braking mechanism on this is going to be a little bit stronger than what we saw with the Canyon Ultimate. But of course, with the disc brakes, there's a bit of a weight penalty. So this is going to be a bit heavier than the Canyon Ultimate, but in theory, it should be a tad faster because of the more aero profile. Now, one thing with this aero bike that we're starting to see less and less of today is that the cables are actually routed externally and not internally, at least at the front end. And that is either a pro or a con. I mean, if you're going just for looks, then it's a con. But this is going to be a bike that, because of the externally routed cables, breaking it down for travel is going to be really, really easy to do, relatively speaking. So if you do racing and you need to ship your bike to the racing event, then this is going to be a really good option for that. And the externally routed cables are probably not going to cost you that many watts, but I think this is a great option. The other option that I chose for this price range was actually the Cervelo Soloist. So the Cervelo Soloist is shipping also with the same components, the 105 mechanical throughout. However, it's actually not throughout. They don't have the 105 crankset. They're just using a generic Shimano crankset, and they're not going to have aero deep dish wheels. So technically, it's not going to be as good of a value as the Canyon. I have done a review on this bike as well, which you can find here. And basically, it is still a very good bike, and it is a Cervelo. Cervelo has an awesome reputation. It's a very fun bike to ride, very comfortable. The only benefit to this bike over the Canyon is that you can fit a wider tire in this bike. So if you do plan on doing maybe some light gravel or bumpy trails, this might be a better option because you can fit wider tires. I believe you can fit up to a 34 mil tire on this. So that's going to add some comfort, and so that could be one benefit over the Canyon. But I think value per dollar, you're probably getting a better deal with the Canyon. Okay, so that's the $3,500 price range. And honestly, you guys, I really wouldn't recommend spending any more than that on a bike. I just don't think you have to. I think once you start passing that price range, the performance upgrades you get really become diminished, and it's just going to be really probably not worth it unless you are either just really competitive or you just really love biking and this is how you want to spend your money. Then there will be some extra performance improvements you can get if you do go past that price range. But I think once you go past that price range, it's really more about your own personal physical fitness. And the reason why I didn't put anything in between the $3,500 range and the $6,500 range is because there's really just nothing I'd recommend buying in that range. I'd probably just stick with the $3,500 range, unless you want to go to the $6,500 range, which for the $6,500 range, I have again chosen the Canyon Aeroad CF SLX 8. the i2. So this one's going to be a little bit lighter than the other version, and it is going to have electronic shifting. It's going to have the Ultegra group set, which is going to be a step higher than the 105, and it's going to have internally routed cables, which again could be a pro or a con, but in general, the Canyon Airroad, even with internally routed cables, breaks down pretty well for travel. So this is going to be a great option for racing, for group rides. I think it looks pretty cool too. And when you're spending that kind of money, I think that starts to become more of a concern. You want something that looks cool, that looks like it's worth your money. And so I think this is going to be a great option. It's offered in 2 paint jobs. I think the white actually looks a bit cooler. It just looks fast, and for me, that kind of thing matters. You're getting some DT Swiss deep dish wheels. This is just going to be a killer bike, and I think this is just really like the maximum you should probably spend on a bike. The other option in that price range was actually going to be, again, the Cervelo Soloist. They have the Soloist offered in the Force ETAP variant or the Ultegra variant. The difference with this version versus the $3,400 version is that, again, electronic shifting, higher end group set. It's going to be a Cervelo Aero handlebar, and it's going to have a set of deeper dish wheels. I think this and the Airroad are going to be probably pretty equal in terms of performance. So I'd probably just go with whatever one you can get access to or whichever one looks cooler to you. Cervelo obviously has a really high-end name, and the Soloist, of course, is a rehabilitation of the early 2000s version of this bike, which won tons of races. So this is going to have just a history to the name, and that means something to a lot of people. So I would say just go with whatever you can get your hands on. The Soloist is going to be a little bit more money, like $300 more than the Airroad. But I think both are going to be awesome options. Okay, so that's the $6,500 price range. Now, lastly, let's look at the whopping $9,000 price range. Which bike should you purchase if you have a budget of $9,000? And honestly, you guys, my personal opinion is nothing. I just simply would not recommend buying a bike for $9,000 because I think the performance improvements and the overall just reliability and everything about the bike really starts to get maxed out at the $6,500 range. So the only reason I would suggest buying a bike for $9,000 is if it brings you some external value other than just performance. And what I mean by that is there's some bikes that carry a certain reputation or a certain prestige or a certain wow factor that only if you're a bike nerd or someone who's just really into biking and biking history will you find benefit from. So the only option that really comes to mind for the $9,000 price tag is, in my opinion, the Cervelo S5. And the reason why I say that is because I personally think, first of all, this bike just looks awesome. This just looks like a weapon, which is really, really cool. I love the paint job of this bike, both the blue and the black. I think that both look just super, super cool. But moreover, I personally believe that this bike is probably going to become a collector's item at some point in the future. And the reason why I say that is because this is the bike used by the Team Jumbo-Visma to win the 2022 Tour de France. And not only that, but the 2022 Tour de France was the fastest recorded Tour de France in history. So this bike has just an awesome reputation, and you really just can't deny the marketing value of a stage win. And when we're talking about the Tour de France, that's the biggest event in the biking industry, this is the bike that's pretty much synonymous with a victory. And so, if I had $9,000 to spend on a bike, I'd probably make it this one. And honestly, if I ever get rich one day and have that kind of money, I'll probably buy this bike just to hang it on the wall because I am a hardcore bike nerd. I'm a hardcore bike enthusiast, and this bike just looks super cool. And I would love to have this bike, but $9,000, man, I'd be worried about riding that thing on the road. Just any kind of scratch, or if you fall, or, it's just a lot of money. But of course, that's all relative. If you have thousands of dollars kind of laying around and you want to spend it on a bike, go for it. There are tons of people I ride with who do ride Cervelo S5s, and they just have tons of money. But you guys, that's just my opinion. Of course, again, I said it at the beginning of this video, there's so many bikes out there to cover. I can't possibly cover them all. So please don't be offended if you ride an awesome bike in one of those price ranges that I didn't mention. I just tend to like Trek, Cervelo, and Canyon. I've had a lot of great experiences with those bikes. I found them to always be really good performers, so I'm just fairly partial to them. But please, I've built this community for all of us to learn and grow. So if you know of a bike that fits one of these price ranges that I haven't mentioned, then let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Let everybody else know. I'd love for us all to just learn from each other and share our collective wisdom. Otherwise, you guys, that's all I have for this video. I hope you have an awesome new year. I've got tons of videos in the works, so be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Again, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate all of you. That's going to do it for this video. Until next time, I'll see you later.